This is Alex from King of the Gym, and in this video I'm going to be doing a full unboxing of the Force USA C20 and a step-by-step assembly guide, which is why this video is 2 hours long, but I have included timestamps so you can easily navigate it. And if you haven't seen my previous videos, I recently went to Force USA's headquarters where I tested their 3x3 line. The C20 definitely piqued my interest, and I was able to get one here in my home gym for further testing. So I will have more C20 content in the future. But for now, you can watch me take delivery, unbox, and assemble it.
What'd you get this time?
I got a power rack cable system all in one machine.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Is it all in this one box? There's another piece?
One more smaller pallet that goes with it.
Cool.
We're getting it in the garage?
Yeah, if you can fit it. Yeah, it looks like perfect.
Give me a sec. Let me try coming in the other way.
Nice.
That's the one that better.
There we go. Let's see, I can move this out of the way if you need it. No, you got room.
That's sad. Looks like I'm dragging.
Oh, it's in the middle. Let's see.
Why is
How did it do that? Back. It's never as easy as you want it to be.
still grabbing?
Yeah, it's still grabbing. I have no idea why that's happening. As long as I can close the door.
The other one's like a normal pallet size, and there's a little crate on top of it, you know?
Let's take a look, because, well, yeah, you'd have to get this. Well, you can always take this out the other side.
Yeah. It might be easiest if just go out the other side.
Yeah, and we could put the other one there, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's super heavy. There's like 600 pounds just in the weight stacks on that thing, plus the actual steel and the frame.
Yeah. Got any more stuff coming this way?
Eventually. Yeah. I'm always getting stuff in and out. Not as much out, you know. I need to get better at just selling the stuff I don't need. But obviously, not going to be able to park the car in here anymore.
Yeah. So you sell this stuff after you do reviews?
Sometimes. I need to sell this one. I don't really use it anymore. I don't know. I still got plenty of space, at least for now. But this big one's going to go against that wall. Then I'll probably start filling out kind of the middle area. Yeah, it looks like these are the weight stacks.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the name on the ticket, but I got into the neighborhood and I was like, I think I know where I'm going.
Yeah. Do you lift it all?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell.
I was at Gold's just this morning.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see, just like hand signature.
Yeah. Before I started lifting, I was 140 pounds.
Oh, really? Yeah, what do you, like 180, 190?
Yep, I'm 180.
Yeah.
So
should work at the fair.
I don't have much home gym equipment yet. All I have at home is kettlebells.
Yeah.
And then I went ahead and bought a bar, but I still gotta buy plates for it.
Yeah.
So plates is next.
Yeah. Right on.
Get a rack.
Yeah. Then it starts. Then the addiction starts. And all right, man. I appreciate it. You have a good one. Okay, so the C20 is officially in the garage, and just look at this box on the pallet. This wooden box is gigantic. It almost takes up the full width of the single garage door. This is as far as we could get it in. The delivery driver had some trouble getting it as far in as we wanted to, so the main issue was just the rubber kept bunching up. I think it's just because this thing is so heavy and it was catching in just the wrong spot, but we did get it through. So there's also a second piece that I wish could have been in the same area here, but since we couldn't push this back far enough, we had to open up the second garage door and put it over here. And this is the entire weight stack, including the default 200-pound unit, which is in that wooden box, and then the upgrade stacks that make it go up to 300 pounds are on top. Now is the hard part of unpacking all this and then finally assembling it. I've decided I want the C20 to go up against this wall right next to the wall control panel, basically where this stepper is right now. So I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way and make room so I can unbox everything and put everything right in this spot. All right, we popped that open, and just so you know, there are some nails sticking out, so be careful of those if you get yours and you start doing it. Luckily, I did not break any skin when I scratched myself, but if we take a look here, we can see we got a whole bunch of nicely protected, nicely wrapped components, and one of the first things I noticed here is that we got these nicely organized boxes with different steps in there, so hopefully that's going to help a lot with making the assembly a lot more efficient, less confusing, but we will find out. Yeah, so you can see this. When I went to the Force USA headquarters, I did not see this piece there, but it looks like it's for the Smith machine to kind of go on there and protect your thighs if you use a Smith machine to hold your legs down. Just kind of look at all these different frame pieces. All right, so we got the box out of the gym, cleared this space up. You can see some leftover debris here, and you can see that flooring where it got bunched up. But luckily, looks like the flooring is just a little dirty, but it didn't actually get scratched up in the process. All right, so I basically kind of just took everything out of the crate and just moved it to this side of the gym. I organized it very, very little. I noticed that virtually every piece in here has a step number on it, on the actual bubble wrap itself. So I was going to initially take everything out of the bubble wrap so you guys could see that kind of all at once, all the different components unwrapped. But since I'll need those step numbers on there for the assembly, I'm going to keep them wrapped up. But I did kind of organize the lower steps in the center here, kind of where the rack is more or less going to go. And off to the sides, I just kind of stack things randomly. And as I get to the higher steps, I'll just pull from the pile as needed. But before I start assembling, I'm going to finish unboxing this part, which is the weight stack plates. I just need to get these out of the way because I do need to work out today, and this will be in my way. All right, that area is all cleared out now. And over here, we have everything waiting to be assembled, including all those weight stack plates here in the corner. Real quick, just kind of to show you that they did a really good job with the packaging. The bubble wrap was on there good, and notably, there's this additional foam that's used to cover any protruding parts, which I'm sure definitely helps keep everything safe in transit. It's me from the future, and I have the rack fully assembled. It looks amazing. I literally just finished it, and I want to tell you how you can finish yours even faster than I did, and that's by making sure that you actually watch each step from start to the end of the step before you actually start assembling that step yourself. And the reason for that is because sometimes I don't necessarily do the step as efficiently as possible on one side of the rack, and then by the time I get to the other side of the rack to replicate that step, that's when I find the better way to do it, or I correct a mistake that I made along the way. But the only way for you to get the most efficient way to do it or avoid the mistake that I made is by watching each step all the way through. Otherwise, you run the risk of repeating the same mistakes. So, if you find this video useful, it saves you some time, definitely give it a like and subscribe to the channel. You gotta do it. I promise you it's worth it. And I guess if for some reason you don't already own the C20, maybe you're just watching this video to figure out what it would be like to assemble the C20 if you were to buy it. In which case, I've included my affiliate link and coupon code down below to help you save some cash. And that is the best way to support my channel. It makes videos like this possible. I really do appreciate the support. That being said, good luck with the installation, and let's get back to the video. So this is one of 4 hardware boxes, and each of the 4 boxes has like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 on the box itself. That's just kind of breaking the boxes up. It's not that this is all for step 1, but if you open step 1, then you can see the hardware for each of the steps in the instruction manual. So all of these should be just for step 1. So I have a feeling this is going to be so much more convenient than the typical way of doing hardware, where you have to, you know, tear apart each sheet of hardware and remove the plastic. This, you just got to go into the bag and go step by step, which is awesome that they thought of that. All right, I got step 1 laid out here. Haven't secured it yet, but just note that this portion, which is going to hold the Smith machine track, is closer to you. All right, now I will secure it. All right, so step 1 is mostly secured. I just wanted to show you real quick something not explicitly mentioned in the instructions, but just note that on the inside for both of these sides there is a washer that goes here, and it is this size, the regular size washer. If I can get it off, there we go, this size. Whereas the one on the outside is the large washer. So you would be able to figure that out yourself, but just noting it here. Moving on to the next step, I have these 2 uprights that are already open. These are going to be installed on the back of the frame. And just a couple of notes here. Force USA conveniently has a laser cut L for the left one and an R for the right one, so you install them correctly on the correct side. Now, also of note is that there are 2 other sets of uprights, so just make sure you don't confuse these. You know, if you keep them in the bubble wrap, you will have the correct step number to guide you, but just in case you already removed that, the differences are on the step 4 set. It has this protrusion on one of the flanges, on one of the ends, and at the other end is that opening, which I assume the cable goes through. And then the same for the set of uprights for step 5. These are also a bit different, and the main difference that I noticed is that the upright tube is actually open on one end, so it's not like that on either of the other sets of uprights. All right, that was super easy. Just another note, you want to make sure that the L and the R on the base of these are facing to the front like this, and that's just because you want these kind of brass colored items here to be facing out, and that's where the pegboard and the shelf will go, I believe. And also just another note, of course, I am not going to be tightening the hardware until the end or until the instructions tell me to, so I'm keeping it just hand tight for now. Alright, so next we have these 2 pieces that are getting installed on the uprights that I just put up. The one in the back there is the Crossmember, which has the insert there where you can put the plate if you're going to use the leg press with the sliding bench. It's also there for structural support. And then the one in front here, that is the shelf. Now the only problem I foresee here, if you look at the diagram, is it doesn't exactly specify which specific holes to install these in terms of the height. So I guess I'll kind of figure that out and let you know what I end up doing. All right, so I did manage to get these installed. I have a few things to say about them. For one, definitely if you have someone else around to help you get these in place, use them because it's a struggle to get it in place yourself, but I did manage to do so. In terms of the placement, I looked at the diagram and kind of saw as best I could where the diagram at least seems to indicate. And I looked at this marker here, this little brass piece. So I put it 1, 2, 3 above it. So this one goes kind of right in line with it. And then there's 2 more holes above it. Hopefully you can see where I'm pointing on camera. I think you can. And then for the shelf up here, I use this as the guidance, and then I put 1 full hole in between it, and then I put the bolt in the next one up. So hopefully you can follow along with that guidance. Now, the other thing I'll tell you as I grab the camera is that it wasn't completely clear based on the diagram which direction the shelf should face, as basically should there be more overhang in the front. And I looked at different pictures of the C20 and I looked at my footage from the headquarters, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, but if it's not, I'll be sure to just write that in the subtitle below this clip. But I'm pretty sure that it should be overhanging more towards the front like you see here. All right, and one last thing I want to mention about the shelf and crossmember assembly is that the instructions have the number of components listed incorrectly in terms of the hardware. It shows 18 shelf bushings when really there are 20. It shows that there are 4 bolts when there are actually 10, and that there are 4 lock nuts when there are also 10 of those. Moving on to step 4, we're going to install the second set of uprights on the base just in front of the existing uprights. And to make sure we have the right ones, these are the ones with the cutout at the top, and then at the base there is this notch, and you want that notch, that protrusion, to be facing towards the front of the rack. And actually the indicator for which side, so the L or the R, if you can see that, will be facing the back of the rack, which is different than those uprights where the L and the R are facing forward. Then once these are installed here, we're going to connect them at the top to the rear uprights. And I'll be connecting the 2 sets of uprights with this piece. There's 1 for each side. All right, so that step is all done. It was very fast, very easy. And you can see it there, it's coming along. On to the next one. All right, so moving on to step 5, we are going to install the final set of uprights closest to the front of the rack. And then, as you can see here in the diagram, we will put the articulating arms on top. So I'm going to install the uprights first, and just to show you, there is a correct way to put them on. But note, it does not matter left or right. There's no left or right side for these uprights like there are for the other uprights, because the numbers, if you can see them, it's a little dark there, are on the sides, both sides, which is different than most other racks where it's on the front. But there is a front and back to these. So the front, you see there, is flat. The back, however, is notched, and that's to allow the cable to travel through once it's installed. All right, the final pair of uprights are installed, and just as a reminder, even though the numbers are on the sides of the post, the numbers should be oriented towards the front of the rack. And as I said before, the next part of this step is to install these arms onto the posts. But let me just show you. You can install them either way. That is with the handle on the inside of the post, or you can install them with the handle on the outside of the post. It'll work either way. After using the C20 at the Force USA headquarters, they had them on the insides, and I found that very convenient. But if you prefer them on the outside of the rack, you can definitely do that too. All right, just like that, the arms are on, super easy. Recommend a step stool if you have one. If you're really tall, you might even be able to do it without that. And I didn't mention this because it was obvious to me, but in case it's not obvious to you, the knob on each arm should be pointing towards the floor. All right, so with step 6, we are putting this top piece on the back of the rack. This is the piece, and it's gonna go right up there at the top of the very back, and it's going to hold some pulleys eventually. And these pieces right here, these brackets, go on the outside to secure it along with the hardware. And I found these, took a little while, at the very bottom of this box, so hopefully that helps you save a little extra time. I'm preparing the hardware for this step, and I saw something that is easy to overlook. There's actually 2 different size bolts. They're very similar, and at first glance it looks like they're all the same, but just know that the slightly shorter ones are the ones here that go in through the back, and all the ones that go in to the sides, those are the longer ones. So you can kind of see the difference in size from that angle. This piece is now installed. I recommend having someone help you with it. Just having them there to support it makes it a whole lot easier. You can probably get away with doing it yourself, but it's just going to make your life a lot easier. And if you're not that strong, you will definitely need someone else. But let me just give you a couple of tips here. So you're going to want to install the rear bolts first. That way you can get this crossmember piece in place, and then you can deal with the brackets. And when you are dealing with the brackets, just make sure they are rotated the right way. At first I had them the wrong orientation, but I soon found out that the bolts did not fit correctly. Step 7 here is pretty easy looking. It's just installing these top cross members on the sides of the rack, and I've got them laid out here so you can kind of see the inside and outside of them. And this is where you see that matching cube or cornerstone pattern that they have, the same one that is on the articulating arms. You can see here I've got the top cross members installed on both sides with that nice pattern. It looks really good. Now, if you take a look at the inside, you can see how it was installed. Got the 4 short bolts there that go right up into it, and then this long bolt that goes right there and it's secured with a nut. And this was super easy to install because you just got to climb up there with a step stool, and once you have the cross member on top of the uprights, it just kind of stays there so you can easily secure it. Next up, we're going to take this cross member piece and put it at the top. It's going to go right up here. It's what's going to be used to hold the pull-up bar handles. It's going to go right across there. And to install it, you're going to need these brackets, which I've put on the left and right sides over here. And just to help you out, I also found these buried at the bottom of that box. And just so you can see it, it's step 8, and this is the blown up diagram with the cross member and the pull-up handles, and it looks like we'll also be installing a couple of pulleys on it as well. Alright, so I'm on the second part of step 8, which is putting in those pulleys right there, which will help, I think, with the lat pull down setup. But basically, the part that I was having issue with was finding these aluminum covers. I was looking absolutely everywhere for them, all of the different bubble wrapped pieces, and I just couldn't find them until I eventually went into this bag, which is a lot of miscellaneous items, some D handles, chains, and I eventually pulled them out of there. So hopefully this helps you save some time. The other thing I'll mention about these pulleys is that you have to pull this part off. This is really just a cover, and underneath them it's super greasy on purpose, obviously, but just be careful when you're handling those so you don't get it all over your clothes. All right, so the last part of step 8 is just to install the pull-up handles right up there. And you're gonna use these threaded nuts. These were actually found in that same box right over here. We are almost done with step 8. There's just one more thing that I noticed here in the book, it says to fully tighten this step's hardware. If you can see that, I'm not sure if it's focusing. There you go. So I'm going to get the cross member fully tightened on the sides with the brackets. I'm going to hit those pulleys up there, tighten those, and then we'll finally be done with step 8. And just a note that every step going forward in here is to fully tighten the hardware as we go through it. But just note that we're not fully tightening everything we've done in the previous steps until the very end. So I am finally on to step 9 in the assembly. This is going to be the most involved step so far. It's basically installing the weight stacks, and there's several things I want to point out before I do this. So this is basically the last time you have to position the rack correctly, because once those weight stacks are on, you will not be able to move this thing. So I shifted mine slightly. There's a couple things you want to make sure. You want to make sure you got it far enough away from the wall so that you don't run into any issues with the low row foot plate. So I have it so that you can push the plate all the way back if needed, and there's a tiny little gap there. What I found was that, if I can get a shot of it, it's just a hair over 2.5 inches from the wall to the end of the foot, and just make sure when you position yours that it's the same distance from the foot to the wall on both sides so that it's even. Oh, just hit my head. And also you want enough clearance on the sides, so I kind of just put one of the weight pegs here to make sure there's enough clearance on the sides. And there is, so I'll be able to put it on and take it off as needed without interfering with the wall. And in terms of clearance on the sides so that I can actually get in there, right now I have my dumbbells there, but I can easily move them, and even if I don't move them, I can still get to the plates. If I take a step back, it's not quite symmetrical between the wall control and the rack compared to this side, but I am okay with that because I want a dedicated spot over on this side where I can bring racks or other equipment in and kind of rotate them in and out for reviews as needed. And so I need enough space here, which I have. So that involves having the rack a little bit closer to the wall control. So I'm happy with the positioning, but yeah, the things you want to make sure are good is that it's even, you know, left side and right side in terms of the distance from the wall, that you have enough space behind it so that there's no interference with the low row foot plate. So basically, if you have the rack feet touching the wall, that's going to be too close. You're going to have issues so that you won't be able to get the low row foot plate far enough back. So just some things to look out for there. Other things that I want to mention. So I have the 300-pound weight stack, which is basically 2 weight stack upgrades. The default is 200 pounds, and you can get 250 with 1 upgrade, and then with 2 upgrades, it's 300. But basically, these pieces are spacers that go between the base of the rack on the guide rods and the bottom of the weight stack. So if you have the 200-pound weight stack, you would put 2 of those on top of each other. If you had the 250-pound weight stack, you would have just 1 spacer, but with the 300-pound weight stack, you don't need any of these. So I'm not even going to use these, but just make sure that you choose the right setup for your weight stack, because let's say you put the spacers on with a 300-pound weight stack, then the stack's going to be too high up, and that's going to mess up the cable distance. So you're going to have, I believe, extra cable coming through the pulleys, and if you do that, you'll have to kind of undo a lot of the steps. So I think that's all the points I want to make for this step. Now I just got to do the installation. Oh, and of course, I will also be using all of the weight plates which are inside of these boxes. All right, so there were a few parts that I missed when laying out everything for step 9. And the ones I didn't include were these weight stack rubber bumpers, which go at the bottom of the stack here, number 34, basically for cushion. Now it says that there's 2 of them. I assume that means 2 per side, because when I took these out, and I found them, by the way, again in this plastic bag, the one with the D handles and all the other miscellaneous stuff, I found a bunch of similar types of rubber bumpers, and after flipping forward in the assembly book, I found that these are indeed the correct ones, because there's 4 total. These are both for the Smith machine, so these are Smith machine protective pieces. So yeah, you can see they're 2 different heights, and they are different than these, but these 4 right here are for the weight stacks. There's a couple of pieces I did not mention for this step, and it is one which is the weight stack band peg hook, and that's, you know, going to allow you to attach band tension to the top of the weight stack, and you'll see they go on both sides, and this is what they look like. I found these also in that bag over there. Then there's this piece, the selector rod connecting pin. I was looking around for that one, couldn't find it in the bag or anywhere else. Then I opened up the boxes, and it is in box 1. So it's going to also be in that other one for the other side. It's connected to the very top weight there. So it's this tiny little plastic piece. And I'm not sure where exactly that'll go, but I will find out when I get to it. The other thing I want to mention is about the different weight stack plates. So you'll see that they're numbered box 1. This is the first box, but it's actually going to be the last step. So basically, the lower the box number, the higher up in the weight stack it'll be. So you'll see here, and it's pretty cool that the plates are already stickered in here. So like this is the 50-pound one, and I'm not going to pull it out, but there's 40, 30, 20, 10 in there. So those ones will go on last, and then, you know, box 3 will go second to last, and so on. So basically, let's say you have the default weight stack of 200 pounds. So you'll start putting on box 4 first. So the 200-pound label weight stack plate will be at the bottom, and then you'll go up from there. Now, what if you have the upgrade kit like me? Well, in that case, you get these plates which are blank, and you'll put those on first, and they come with a sheet of stickers that look like this. You can just peel and stick afterwards. So I will be putting on the blank ones first, then I will go to box 4, box 3, box 2, and box. The first thing you'll do is put the guide rods in the base of the rack in the holes, just like that, and you can let them lean, just like that. Next, you'll take the rubber bumpers and you'll put them over the guide rods, and I'm not sure if the direction matters. See, there's holes on that side, but I'm gonna put them this side facing up. Hopefully that's correct. Next up, I'm going to be putting the weight stack plates on. Since I have the upgrade kit, I'm going to be starting with the blank ones. But just note that it does not matter which direction you put it in terms of this way versus this way, but it does matter in terms of top versus bottom. This part with the plastic portion showing should face the ceiling. This part on the bottom is blank, so that should be facing the floor. Now, when you get to the plates that are already stickered, just be sure you actually face those to the inside of the rack. All right, so I'm stopping partway through this step before I move on to the next section, just to show you the weight stack. I have all of the main plates on there, and I wanted to point out that basically once the stack gets about a third of the way full, it really has a tendency to lean, and if you don't stop it, it will fall over and definitely cause some damage to those guide rails, so you want to be careful not to let that happen. So in the meantime, if you have to take a break between things, you're definitely going to want to temporarily put the hardware in up here just to keep things stable and prevent it from falling. The next step I can see causing a lot of confusion. It did with me because I was looking at this, and so basically this piece right here, that's the top plate, and this piece is the guide rod or the selector rod, and they're supposed to connect like this, and these holes are supposed to line up. And then you're supposed to use this connector piece here, but I was confused because it doesn't fit like at all. But from looking into it and talking to my buddy who has installed a similar selectorized piece like this, he had to hammer it in. So the way that'll work is when I hammer it in, there is this edge that you can see is kind of slanted inwards, whereas this one is flat. So you're going to want to put it in on the slanted edge so that it can kind of get in there a little better. It's mostly flush. Not perfectly, but if I keep hammering on it, yeah, you can kind of see it from there. It just barely sticks out, but I think that's perfectly fine for this. And I did not make any marks around this one. Can't say the same for the first one I attempted. This is actually the second one I'm doing here. The first one was a whole lot more trial and error, using wood, using different mallets, trying to kind of punch it in with makeshift devices. But this one went a lot smoother. Definitely, if you do the same method that I used with the metal mallet, be careful, of course, not to miss. And also probably wear hearing protection. That's what I have. I have some earmuffs on. And I guess that's it. I guess I will ask Force USA if they have a different method that they use, or if they plan on eventually shipping these pre-assembled, which I would greatly prefer. I know the Rep Aries was, that one came already assembled, so this is the first time I've actually had to do this. Definitely one of the more challenging parts of the assembly. Just for reference, here's the first one I attempted. So you can kind of see a few small scuffs. Really not too major in the grand scheme of things. And I think this one actually protrudes out a little more than the second one. So I definitely improved my technique from one to the next. But both are good to go and install in the stacks now. Okay, so that does it for this side. I just want to quickly review some things here. So this one, the adder plate, the increment plate, whatever you want to call it, right here, it goes in this orientation. Obviously you want the pop pin on the inside of the rack, and then when you install it, you'll see these things that hang down, that extend down. Those are pointing downwards rather than upwards, because this position allows you to, if you can see, go into the top, and it can only do that if these are on the bottom. If it was flipped over and they were on the top, it would not insert into the hole up there. So that is the correct orientation. You probably saw me put this in. You know, you just twist it down, and then there's a nut there that you can tighten, and then later when I do the cabling, I can, you know, take that out a bit or screw it in more. And the other thing that I got really lucky with, when I was installing the top plate with the selector rod with the mallet, I wasn't really even paying attention to the orientation of it. Let me show you the other one. But I lucked out and I just happened to install both of them in the correct orientation. Basically, you want these two spacers to be pointing towards the top. So I got very lucky there. I'm very happy. So just make sure you also install it correctly. If it's facing downwards, then you're basically going to have to ask Forest USA for a new piece, because there's no way to get that connector piece out of there once it's in. And then the only other thing to mention here is that the stickers are all correct. So when you do this, just double check yours. See, it goes down to 200, and then with the upgrade plates, I'm just going to stick those on later. And I am not going to show me installing the other side, but basically just do the exact same thing I did here on the opposite side when you're installing yours. Almost forgot, there are these mini band pegs that go at the top of the rack, as you can see here, and they just screw in really simply like this, and there's two on each side. Just like that. All right, so as you can see, both stacks have been installed successfully. Just wanted to quickly point out one thing I encountered when installing the stack on the left-hand side, and it's up here. Let me get over to show you. This piece I had to flip around while installing this stack pretty much at the end, so that was very difficult because I had to kind of balance this thing to prevent it from tipping over. But you want to make sure, ideally before you install the stack, that the hole here is facing the inside. Obviously the same goes for the other stack, but that's important because this increment plate needs that hole to go to the top and stay here. Other than that, the only thing left for this step is to tighten everything that we just installed. So I believe that means just these bolts at the top. So I just wanted to add one more point about the weight stacks. After I installed them, I didn't actually test them right away in terms of putting the pin in to different parts of each stack. And what I noticed was something kind of weird. So this stack originally worked fine. There was absolutely no friction when sticking the pin into any spot on the weight stack. However, this one would work fine up until about 200 pounds or so. And when I put the pin in below that, I would get some friction, like it was hitting into the selector rod. You could still put it in, but there was definitely some stoppage, and it was definitely not something I would want to keep. What I ended up doing was switching the top plate with the guide rod from one side to the other to kind of test it and see if that somehow changed it. And for some reason it did. It doesn't really make sense why it would work, because I figured the issue would have been with the guide rod holes itself possibly not being, you know, the right distance apart. But I'm really not sure, honestly. It could have possibly been maybe the plates were kind of shifted over slightly on the stack, just from moving it around so much. But I guess the point of me saying all this is, if you experience the same issue, then just try doing what I did. Swap the different top plate and guide rod between the sides, and it'll probably fix your issue too. We are finally moving on to step 10, which is the assembly of the upper mainframe cable. And you can kind of see the blown out diagram here, which is a bit confusing. And it doesn't actually show here it going through the adjustable articulating arms, but I think that part is just implied, or you do it afterwards. I don't think it really matters. But I found that looking at step 12, you can see on this side a better visual representation of how the cabling works. So that is what I recommend looking at if that first diagram confuses you. But I'll try to show you a little step by step as I bring it through, any issues I come across. And let me just pick up the camera here to show you. This is the cable that we'll actually be using. So all the cables come in a bag, which I opened, and there's 3 sets of cables. So it's actually the longest pair of cables, which I have over here. It's the one that has the balls on each end. And what I think is going to come in handy here is that you can remove these, which will help you thread them through the system, especially through going through the articulating arms, where you can't just fit it through. I'm sure it'll also help when bringing it just through the regular pulleys once those are set up. So let me just put this down. Yeah, so that threaded nut comes out. You see it on the floor there, and then you can pull this piece out, comes off, and then you kind of just empty the rest out like so. And then you just have that piece which you will be able to bring through. So I'm not sure exactly how it'll work, but I'm pretty sure that part will come in handy. And these items down here should be the rest of the items needed for step 10. There's the hardware, some pulleys, some of those came pre-assembled, and then the extra pulleys are in here. According to the steps, we should need 16 90mm pulleys for this step. Alright, so I removed the ball from the end of this cable, And I'm going to start by putting it through the articulating arm. So you want to go between these two in the front, these two pulleys. And then there's, I can't really show it on camera, but there's a kind of a slit in the middle of the arm on the inside. That's hard, definitely hard to get into, but we'll see if we can aim it this way. And then there's another pulley at the top here. You can't really see it, but it's there. So it goes underneath that pulley. Okay, and we'll get it in the pulley track there. So we see that kind of feeding through correctly. And then it goes up this hole here. I think you can see that it's coming up through the hole at the top. And I'm just going to pull that through to get some slack so it doesn't come back out, and I'll move on to the next part. All right, so next we're going to be installing one of the pulleys. Up here there's a slit cut out in the cross member here. Goes down here, and the cable will obviously go over that. And then you're going to install the hardware through this hole. There's a hole on the other side as well. And you need just 4 pieces of hardware for this. And let me show you how it'll go. There is a long bolt, which hopefully you can see there. Then there's a bushing. So with the bushing on one end, then this piece will go through the crossmember hole and then through the pulley itself. And then on the opposite side, when this is coming through the other end of the crossmember, you'll put that through, and then this on the other side. All right, so that's installed, very easy. You can see there the bolt with the bushing. And up here, you have the pulley with the cable going on top. And on the other side, you have the other bushing with the nut on the other end of the bolt. All right, I'm gonna install this next pulley right where you see that hole, kind of on the side. There's a slot on the top that the pulley will go down to. I'm not gonna film that because it's installed the exact same way, but I'll show you how it looks afterwards. Okay, you can see it installed here from the top view. Now you can see how I'll thread the cable through with one hand, so sorry if it's shaking the camera. So it goes right on top of the pulley and then comes down through that hole on the bottom. So next I'm going to feed the cable through this figure-8 pulley bracket, and it's important to note that the smaller part of the figure-8 is at the top and the larger part is at the bottom. So you're just going to feed it through like this, and it's going to go through here, and I'll install that pulley next. This pulley installs the same exact way as the other ones we've done so far, with the bushing through the crossmember, through the pulley to the other side with the other bushing and the nut. Next, we thread this through the top. Okay, so here's where things change a little bit. This next pulley is going to be installed with one of these shorter bolts, and it's got a washer on one end. Then you'll put it through the pulley bracket with another washer on the other side, if you can see that. And then of course secured with a nut. So we put the pulley through, line it up with the holes, and we take that shorter bolt with the washer on, slide that through, take the other washer, put it on the other side, and take that nut and secure it. Now we can continue feeding the cable through the pulley system. So it goes on top of this one. Let me just pull some slack and bring it up through here. There's a hole in this cross member that it goes down. Make sure that stays in the groove up there and pull it through. And this is how it's looking when you take a step back. Goes all the way down. That'll obviously be pulled up later. Comes back up. Goes through that pulley and through the pulley we just installed and goes down. And next we're gonna loop it through that pulley and back up. All right, so we'll take this end under this pulley and pull it up. And then it goes through the hole. See where my finger is? Right there. Through that little cross piece and up here. And next it's gonna go through this pulley once we install it. All right, so this pulley is installed the same way as the last, with the short bolt, one washer on each side. Line it up. And it's secured. We put it through just like that. All right, I'm inside the rack now, and we're going to install this pulley exactly the same way as the last pulley. And then we'll pull the cable through here and it goes right on top. And since I'm up here already, I'm just going to install the pulley right next to it, since I think that'll make it a bit more convenient for when I get to the next piece. All right, and then I'm going to take this piece here and install the pulley like so. So we got that like that. And then this piece is going to go hanging this way, but we're not going to quite feed the cable through it yet because it's just going to slip right back out. So let me set up the rest next. All right, so remember this ball that goes on the end of the cable? Well, we're going to reconnect this in a second because we're about to get to the end of the cable where it comes out of the lat pull down pulley. But first we have to string the cable through a couple of spots. So I'll try to do this as seamlessly as possible, but it might be a little tricky, but nothing too bad. All right, so we want this with the stick side pointing down, and it's going to come up here, and this is where it gets a little tricky because I have to pull out the slack from the rest of the cable on this side of the rack over here, and then I will pull it through the lat pull down pulley on this side, the side furthest from the camera. And then I will reinstall the ball on the cable like so. Hopefully the camera is focusing on this. So like that. And then we secure it with the little locking screw. Make sure it's aligned. And like that, we're done with this side. And I'll show you in just a second. All right, so the upper cable is fully installed here, and I'll kind of take you along the travel path of the cable from start to end, going through the articulating arm, up there on that pulley, up through here on the pulley that's installed right there, going back to this pulley, and then traveling down, going around this one, and again the smaller end of the figure 8 is pointing up, and then the cable extends up to this pulley. And from there, it goes through. It's a little dark in there, but the cable is right there. It goes onto this pulley and goes down to the weight stack pulley, back up onto this angled pulley, and from the angled pulley to the angled pulley in the rear of the rack, down to this piece with the stick portion pointing downwards, and traveling back up and forward towards the front of the rack and out of one of the lap pull down pulleys. And you can see here where we reinstalled the ball at the end of the cable. That does it for the upper cable pulley on this side of the rack. I'm going to go ahead and do it on the right side of the rack, but I'm not going to show that on video because the steps are exactly the same. Just picking up the camera while I'm doing the installation of the upper cable on the right hand side of the rack. And I actually found a much more efficient way to do it that I recommend you do when you're installing yours. But that is basically to install all of the pulleys at once, like in a single batch, one after the other. And that way you kind of get to consolidate your efforts, and it goes much faster that way. And once all those are installed, then you can just string the cable through, and there's not going to be an issue in terms of getting it through because you can take the ball off the end of the cable. All right, so that was definitely much easier to install the pulleys all at once and then put the cabling through. So highly recommend you do it that way. Now the only thing left to do is just fully tighten all the hardware that I use to install the pulleys with. Now I am on to step 11, which is installing the lower main frame cable and the pulleys that go along with that. So basically that's using this cable that I'll show you here, which has this end, and that is going to install in the back of the adjustable arm. And then the opposite end right here is going to install on the lower frame. There's a spot that it screws into right there. And this is one of the areas where we can adjust how far in or out it's secured at a later point. Next, we're going to thread the cable through this piece, and we're going to untwist it first because it got a little twisted up there. I'm going to pull it through. We're going to feed it through these slots where the pulleys will go. And we're going to put those pulleys in afterwards, because if you put them in ahead of time, you can't feed this cable through. Next up, I'm going to install the pulleys, and you want to make sure that you keep the cable in the pulley groove. These are installed with the bushings on the bolt, and out the other side, second bushing and nut. Yeah, that's still in the pulley groove. Now, second pulley. We are going to attach this end with the hole using the short bolt, a washer, and another washer and a nut. And there are 5 holes here. You can choose whichever. There's optionality here depending on, you know, the tightness you want, and these things loosen over time, so you can always adjust in the future to make it tighter. In any case, I'm going to choose the one in the middle for now, and I can adjust as needed. The instructions don't say which side the cable should go on, like which side this portion should be on, so I'm just going to put it on the outside and then just secure it like that. I just completed the lower cabling on the left-hand side, so now both sides are done, and now the only remaining part is to complete the cabling on the back for the low row, which goes from these two down to the base there. Alright, so here's step 12. It's very simple. We're just bringing these cables from the top to the bottom, and they're going to come out of the lower cable pulleys here, and it's using this cable. This set of cables is the last set of cables, so one end of each cable, it has the ball, and the other has the screw. And here are all the items laid out, so you can just take a look at those. I'll start back here and just screw this in, just like that. Next, I'm going to install this pulley, which came pre-assembled, into this hole here. So it doesn't, the instructions don't clearly show where this aluminum cover is supposed to go, but based off how it told us to install the lap pull down with these, I know that it goes underneath. So I'm going to move the rubber band over carefully so the bottom bearing doesn't fall out. And then I'm going to take the short bolt with the split washer and put it there underneath, going through it, and put this through the top and then secure it that way. All right, the last step here is to thread the cable through the pulley to come out. And I've tried this a couple of times by removing the ball from the pulley, but that's too hard because you really have to get it far out, and then you have to grip onto the cable and it just slips in your hands. It's a mess. So instead, this is going to be much easier. We'll take this directly out, and then hopefully we can install it this way, like so. Put it in this way. Like that. And there's even some slack, so I can tighten it up top, since I actually loosened it quite a bit off camera. So I'll just tighten that up, take some slack out. One annoying thing that I just realized is that all of the pre-installed pulleys come with the washers, with 2 washers on one side as opposed to 1 washer on this side and another washer on that side. So this also goes for this one down here, this kind of figure 8 one, and also the ones way up there. I don't know if you can see them, but the lap pull down ones. So I've just been going through and manually fixing those. So I'm not sure if it was just my batch that this happened to, or if this is just kind of what they do at the factory. So just a heads up on that. So off camera, I was doing a couple of things with the cable system, just making sure it's all set. And one of those was just going around and tightening everything that I hadn't already tightened fully. That's every single different pulley on the system. And when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're just not over tightening it, because if you do, you know, these will just kind of come together if you really crank on them. So just avoid doing that. But you definitely do want to tighten with a tool. Additionally, I adjusted the tension in the system so that all the different tension points were even between both of the sides, and I made sure that, so for example, these screw-in points weren't just hanging on by a thread. They have enough grip inside of them so that there's never any issues in terms of safety. Definitely with these as well, I made sure those were down deep enough into here. And another reason you want to do that here is for the increment plate. You want to make sure the pop pin on here doesn't hit onto the nut there, which you can see if I put the camera here on the side. There's just enough clearance there, so there's no interference. And when I was adjusting the tension, I noticed that there's also additional adjustment points on this figure 8 item. So I ended up putting it down here at the lowest level, and that worked out well for me. And again, there's also this point up here, which is another adjustment area where you can adjust the tension. I kept it where I originally had it, right in the middle. But that should get us to be fully done with the cable system. I may have to do some minor adjustments at the very end once I tighten up the frame, but for now we're looking pretty good. All right, now that we're fully done with the cable system, we're moving on to the Smith machine setup, and that is steps 13, 14, and 15 for just the Smith machine with the guide rods. Step 16 is going to be for the safety system, but I'm going to do steps 13 to 15 on camera, and then we'll go from there. But right here you can see I have the components for steps 13 to 15 all laid out here, the guide rods, the bar itself, and the various other pieces. So first up, you just put this bottom insert in here like so. Very easy. All right, I got a wide shot so you can see everything. I put the guide rod into the base here inside of that rubber protector ring that I just put in. The first thing you're going to put on after that is the safety spotter piece, which I didn't have laid out initially, but it looks like this, and it doesn't matter which way you put it. And that goes there, followed by this smaller rubber ring right here. And then we have this piece which holds the barbell, and it also doesn't matter which direction you put it, up or down. And lastly, there's this piece which has a lock screw there, and you put it on here, and this part, by the way, facing the top should be the indented end, because you need that to put the lock screw or set screw in there and secure it inside of this piece, just like that. I'm filming this after I already installed the racking system, but when you're installing this top piece to secure the Smith machine, it's ideal to keep this set screw facing outwards, so if you ever need to tighten it, it has easy access, because if you have it on the sides or the back, you can't reach it with an Allen key. Here's how it looks a little closer up. And by the way, these pieces have some grease on them, so your hands will definitely get a little greasy. Next up, we're going to install the barbell into the right side of the rack, right into this piece right here. And in terms of the barbell orientation, like how the logo is oriented, it's like this. It kind of shows that in the guidebook if you look closely, and also just looking at it visually, I think that looks best. Remove the rubber band first. And just slide it through, just like that. Now we'll prepare the side for this guide rod by putting the rubber bumper down like that. Next we'll get the guide rod, put it in. All right, next up I've prepared this guide rod with the safety spotter, the rubber ring, and the bar holder. And we're going to take off this rubber band, if it'll come off. There we go. And then line it up with the bar and try to slide it through. There we go. All right, then we're gonna kind of lift it up. Whew. There, it's in. Okay, so everything is good now, but in the previous clip you saw, I thought I had everything correct, but I did not. I fixed it off camera. But what had basically happened is that even though I got this second guide rod in the slot here, the bearings kind of came out of here, and so it wasn't fully in. So the guide rod was like slanted that way. It just wouldn't work. And I believe the bearing actually came out of that end as well. So I got my wife to help, and if you have a second person, I highly recommend it for this step because the guide rods are greasy. They're super tough to hold on to. They're heavy. But what I found helpful is on this side, putting like a rubber band or some type of stopper to prevent these bearings from slipping out while you're manipulating this side. And also, instead of just kind of pulling the guide rod straight on, it's best to rotate it to, sorry, I'm moving the camera around a lot. Rotate it kind of to this side, as opposed to just pulling it straight horizontally that way. You want to rotate it here first, and then from there you can kind of hop it on to the hole that it fits into. Wish I could have shown you how it actually was done, but it was a pretty strenuous effort. And next we're just going to secure the guide rod like we did the other side, and again, this is the correct side with this kind of indented ring, which will put this way and slip the rod underneath, shift that in, and then secure the lock screw. We're on to step 16, which is putting the Smith racking system on. So the two key things here are to have each of the racking columns oriented correctly. So the hooks are on the inside and the hooks are pointed up. So just a note ahead of time, there's more different pieces of hardware on this step than most others. And probably the one to be most cautious about is making sure that you differentiate between these two bolt sizes. One is 20 millimeters, one is 25 millimeters. And I'm probably going to do the 20 millimeter one first, which is that one right there. And that one goes at the top in the back. All right, so importantly, when you install these, you do it from the inside of the rack because there are cutouts on this side that let you actually line them up properly, like so. Then with the 20 millimeter bolt, a spring washer, and a regular washer, you just install this bolt in the back here. Then with that same hardware combo, you're going to install it down at the base. Next, I'm going to secure it down at the bottom, like so, from the side, using this hardware. So large, long bolt, large washer, regular washer, and a nut at the end. So there's two sets of this. All right, next we're going to secure it at the top on the side using the 25 millimeter bolt, which is a slightly longer one, with the spring washer and a regular washer. And it doesn't show the spring washer and regular washer in the diagram, but that's what we'll be using. Those are hand tightened now, but just to let you know, it helps to pull this up while you're tightening them. Otherwise, there's some friction when you try to screw them in. So the final step for securing the racking mechanism for the Smith machine is this one here, piece number 60, and it kind of isn't obvious here because it shows it on the left side. But if we look at the blown up diagram, this is what it's referring to. And it's right here. So you can probably see that little hole right there. And the screw that goes in it is this. Now, it doesn't show it in the diagram or on the hardware list, but in the hardware bag that came with the step, there's this little washer that looks like this. So we can safely assume that this goes on the bolt, and then the bolt just goes right through here. That side is completely done. And now, off camera, I will just install the other side. Both sides are now installed, and now all you have to do is tighten all hardware, which I'm about to do off camera. Works great. Step 17 is incredibly simple. You're just installing the sleeves on the Smith machine using a bolt and a washer, and the bolt is secured with an Allen key. Step 18 is also super simple. It's the nameplate and the pegboard, with the nameplate going on first, followed by the pegboard. These are all the items you'll need right here. Here is the hardware configuration for the nameplate. It's a short bolt and a small washer. It's going to go up through the nameplate and into the top cross member. This right here is a long bolt with 2 bushings. This is the hardware configuration for the pegboard, and it's going to go through the side of the uprights in the back, so it's going to go through those 1-inch holes. Here's from the back of the rack. You can see where those bolts went. It's kind of dark, sorry about that. All right, it's going to go right under the nameplate, and you want to make sure the whole part of the keyhole is at the top. And then through the side, we'll put the bolt with the bushing. On the opposite side, the other bushing. All right, so the pegboard is at least mostly installed. I actually lost a bushing, and this was a bit more difficult to install than I expected, just because I'm one person and it's kind of hard to stabilize the thing while you're putting the hardware in. But I'll try to get back here so you can see what it looks like. So the bushing just comes through there, and there's a second one on the side there. And so I'll just go ahead and tighten that and look for the other one. Next up is the assembly of the shrouding for the weight stacks. And on the surface, this one's pretty easy, but you need to make sure that you get the right ones in the right place. So I'll try to break that down for you. So when you get these, they'll be wrapped in 3 packages, and I'll show you here. So the ones on the right hand side, those came wrapped in the same package, and you kind of see that separator piece of bubble wrap that's still there to protect them when they were packaged together. And now these ones on the left side, they were packaged individually, so 3 packages total. And if you look here, you see that there are, in this first one, there are 2 pieces, the right rear and the front left weight stack covers. Those refer to these ones that were packaged together. Then there are the remaining two, and you can kind of see here it's barely oh sorry, putting the wrong one. So the front right weight stack cover, you can identify that by this marking, which is C20. So that is, if we look here, you can see that one on the inside is the C20, so that one on the inside is the front right weight stack cover, making the last one on the outside, on the left, that one is the left rear weight stack cover. So that's kind of how you break it down. Hopefully I didn't confuse it too much on that, but knowing that ahead of time will help ensure that you install them right the first time. As far as hardware goes, it's very simple, just two pieces, short bolt and a small flat washer. And these just go straight into pre-threaded holes that are in the uprights. So no nut is required to secure it. All right, so we're starting with the front right cover. This is the one with the C20 laser cut into it. You just want to make sure that the C20 is the right side up and that the keyhole cutouts here have the hole, the circle part on the top. Just finished installing the front right one, and now I'm going to do the left rear weight stack cover, and this is the one that was also individually packaged, and it's going to go right up there. Now all that's left are these two that were packaged together, and they will go in the remaining spots, and it doesn't matter which one goes where. They're going to go in the front left and the rear right. And finally, the last one in the rear right corner. Now that all the covers are installed, you just have to tighten the bolts, and these bolts are smaller than the other ones that we've used so far. So you can either use this tool that Force USA provides, and you would use the smaller side, or if you have one, a ratchet with a size 14 socket. Ideally, I probably should have put the stickers on the rest of the weight plates before I put the shrouding on, but it looks like I'll probably be able to fit those in there later. Worst case, I can always uninstall the shrouding to put them on. All right, we're on step 20, which is pretty much the last real step, last major step. And that's just installing the storage, so the weight storage and also the barbell storage. Barbell storage is right up there, that hook. And obviously the weight pegs here, that's the weight storage. And I have everything laid out here on the floor so you can see, with 4 weight pegs per side, and then the weight storage hook is right there. And then I have all of the hardware laid out the way it'll go on. So when it comes to the placement of the weight storage horns, it's basically up to you, your personal preference, where you want them, but I'll show you where I decided to place mine. I just have them set here, not installed yet, but I will show you. So I put mine one down from the top hole for the highest one. Then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 holes between the first and the second one. Then let me move the camera down. Then between the second highest and the third highest one, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 holes. And then finally down here, I believe it's 9 holes, but let's just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And yeah, so that's how I configured mine. I find that just for my height and how I plan to use these, this is a good distance. You just have to lift them up a little bit to get them on the bottom row. And yeah, feel free to replicate that if you want. So since it's kind of hard to get a camera angle back here, I'm just going to show you one of these for the installation. So you got the small bolt split washer and a large washer, and it just goes on like that. Once you got all the weight harness installed, you're just going to want to go and tighten them. All right, now to install the barbell hook. You can put it on either side. I personally prefer this side. Now you take the long bolt washer on this side, slide it through just like that. And then I'll go to the other side and I'll secure it like this with the washer and the nut. This step here is totally optional. Basically, if you really want to, for whatever reason, you can anchor this into the floor. But you know, for me and virtually everyone else, the rack itself with the weight stacks is so heavy that it's extremely stable as is, but you do have that option. I'm almost done installing everything. The last major piece that you need to do at this point is tighten with your tools everything that was previously just hand tightened. So that's mostly every single bolt that's on the frame. When you do that, you want to start at the base, then work your way up, but stay balanced. So switch between the left and the right side so nothing gets out of whack. I'm going to do that after I finish filming everything here, probably tomorrow since it's near the end of the day and I'm pretty tired. But I want to first show you the attachments and the accessories and everything that comes with it that I haven't covered already. And there is actually one attachment that does require a little bit of installation, the Landmine, but it's super easy, and I'll show you that next. This is the Landmine attachment. All these pieces here. This is the magnetic part that magnetically holds the sleeve in place once it's installed. So you can put it on any of the posts, but it really just makes the most sense here. You could put it on the inside as well. You can move it around as needed if you have a certain use case for a certain exercise, but this is where I recommend the default placement. So you place this all the way through that bottom hole there, and then you put this one so that it matches up towards the top, and you put that there and see how it magnetically connects. Now we have these two knurled nuts, and there's a protective coating here as well, and we'll put this on the opposite side. All right, so we just secure it like this, protective side facing the post, and just spin it in like that. Same with the top. Now you see, just like that, you have an easy way to put the sleeve out of the way so that it's not just hanging down like that. To wrap up this video, I'm just going to quickly show you all the different attachments and accessories that come with the rack, starting with these D handles connected to the articulating arms, and then the pull-up handles at the top, which you can move in and out depending on your grip width. And we got this nice banana clip that connects the two pulleys together so you can get that 1-to-1 ratio on pull downs. Connected to that is that pull down bar. Then we got the J cups here and the spotter arms below them, and you'll notice that they are turned to the inside, which isn't the typical way you'll be using them unless you're doing dips, which is where these dip handle attachments come in play. Now you can also put these dip handles up top and really just use them as a neutral grip pull-up bar. Moving inside the rack towards the back, you have the Pegboard storage system, and that has various attachments on it, including this short straight bar, some very basic ankle cuffs, ankle attachments, some nice barbell collars with really good magnets in them, and you got a classic triceps rope, and this unique attachment that spans the width of the rack, and you can connect it to the pulleys to basically do things like assisted pull-ups. Over here we have a pad you can attach to the Smith machine to add comfort to your thighs when you're using the Smith bar to hold your legs in place for lat pull downs. You have a close grip bar. I love that for low rows. And then you see here on the pegboard, there are these different pegs you can just move around to different places as needed. There's also an easy bar attachment right here, and you can see here you can use the shrouding to store some extra stuff using the pegs. Now down here you have the low row foot plate and some more clips, and doesn't seem to be another banana clip included with the C20. I'll have to reach out to Force USA to see if there's supposed to be a second one, because that would be convenient. As you saw before, there is one currently connected to the lat pull down. Now there's also these large band pegs currently installed underneath the weight stack, and so you can use these top ones connected to the bottom ones with a band to add band tension to your selectorized exercises. You can also use those band pegs on different parts of the rack. For example, you can put it here when you're doing Smith machine exercises, or you can even put it here for barbell exercises. And I think that is all the items. I guess there's also 4 different extension chains right there. These very basic spring clips, not sure I'll use those. And then there's, of course, these stickers that I still have to install down here below the 200-pound plate. I almost forgot, the C20 does come with some lubricant, and that is for the guide rails on the weight stack. Definitely use that, because out of the box there's going to be a bit of friction with the plates going up and down. This is going to make things a whole lot smoother. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Filming this definitely made installation a lot longer for me personally, but that was just because of the filming. The whole process was less involved than I thought it was going to be, but hopefully for you it's even easier after watching this. Give it a like, subscribe to my channel if this was helpful. If you haven't bought the C20 already and you're thinking of doing so, then definitely use my link. I also have a coupon code. Both of those will be in the description below. I appreciate your support. Without you guys, this channel is impossible. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.